Look at your last name. You have signed it on school forms, printed it on a passport, spelled it out over the phone to a stranger at a bank, and maybe traced it with your finger on a headstone in a cemetery you only visit once a year. Most of us treat a surname like furniture. It sits behind our first name. It gets typed, copied, filed, and forgotten. But a surname is not furniture. It is a fingerprint left by people who are no longer here to explain it. It can point toward a hillside town in Castillo. It can trace back to a word an Arabic-speaking scholar once used to describe a walled city. It can preserve the memory of a father whose face no one alive has ever seen. It can be tied to a fortress, a riverbank, a religious feast day, or a family that quietly changed everything about itself in order to survive. And in the Hispanic world, this gets even more layered, because many families didn't inherit one surname. They inherited two lines, two separate trails running backward through fathers, mothers, ships, borders, conversions, and silence. Today, we're counting down 10 Hispanic surnames still carried across Spain, Latin America, and the diaspora that stretches from Los Angeles to Manila. These names won't hand you a verified family tree. They won't prove where you came from. But they will hand you a starting point, a thread worth pulling. And stay for number 1, because it may be the most argued over surname on this entire list. Historians still don't fully agree on where it began. Let's count down. Number 10, Medina. You've almost certainly met a Medina. The name sounds completely at home in Spanish. Smooth, familiar, unremarkable. Except it isn't Spanish at all. Not originally. Medina comes directly from the Arabic word for city, Medina. For nearly 8 centuries, large parts of the Iberian Peninsula were under Muslim rule, and during that stretch of history, Arabic didn't just influence Spanish vocabulary around the edges. It reshaped irrigation systems, architecture, scientific language, and place names across the region. Words like aceite, oil, almohada, pillow, and ojalá, hopefully, all trace back to this era, and so does Medina. Across medieval Iberia, dozens of towns carried Medina as part of their name, or were simply known as the city by the people who lived nearby. Someone connected to one of those towns, through birth, trade, or reputation, could eventually be identified by that place, and that identifier hardened into a surname that outlived the town's original name in local memory. That's the strange trick surnames play on us. A family might assume its name has always been purely Spanish, because it has appeared in Spanish church and government records for 500 years. But sitting quietly underneath that name is a different language, shaped by a different empire, describing a different world entirely. Medina isn't just a surname. It's a city folded into a family tree. Number 9, Guerrero. Guerrero barely needs a translator. It means warrior. But the interesting part isn't the definition. It's what kind of person a village would have chosen to remember that way. Long before surnames were fixed and inherited, people were identified by trade, temperament, or reputation. A man known for fighting, whether as a soldier, a defender, or simply someone dangerous to cross, could become the warrior to everyone around him. Once that label stuck to his children and grandchildren, it stopped being a description and became a name. The word itself sits at the crossroads of Latin, Germanic military vocabulary brought by the Visigoths, and centuries of near-constant conflict on the Iberian frontier, where Christian and Muslim kingdoms pushed against one another for generations. Guerrero carries all of that friction inside a single word. When Spanish colonization crossed the Atlantic, the surname crossed with it. Today, it's common across Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, and the United States, and it's also the name of an entire Mexican state, honoring Vicente Guerrero, one of the key figures in Mexico's fight for independence. But long before it belonged to a president or a state on a map, Guerrero may simply have been the way one village chose to remember one man they were afraid to fight. Number 8. Cruz. Cruz means cross. There's no ambiguity in the translation, but there's plenty in the history behind it. The word descends from the Latin crux, and in the Hispanic world it's inseparable from Catholic identity. Churches, baptisms, feast days, roadside shrines, and religious devotion that shaped Iberian culture for over 1,000 years. For many families, Cruz likely began exactly the way it sounds: a household connected to a parish, a landmark shrine, or simply a deep expression of Christian faith. But for other families, a name built around a Christian symbol opens a heavier door. After the Reconquista concluded in 1492, Spain's Jewish and Muslim populations faced expulsion, forced conversion, and constant suspicion. Families who converted to Catholicism, often called conversos if they came from Jewish backgrounds, or moriscos if they came from Muslim ones, sometimes lived under enormous pressure to visibly prove their new religious identity. Surnames tied to Christian symbolism, saints, or holy days could serve that purpose, whether chosen freely or adopted out of necessity. None of this means every Cruz family descends from a converso household. It means the name itself sits at an intersection: faith, geography, and sometimes survival. And there's no way to know which door a specific family walked through without deeper genealogical digging. Cruz can mean devotion. It can mean a place. And in some family lines, it may quietly carry the memory of a forced choice made 5 centuries ago. Number 7. Castillo. Castillo means castle. But before it was a surname, it was stone. Walls, towers, and the place a village ran toward when soldiers appeared on the horizon. The word traces back to the Latin castellum, tied to Roman-era fortifications that dotted the roads and frontiers of ancient Hispania. Centuries later, the medieval kingdoms of the peninsula filled their contested borders with castles, especially in the shifting frontier zones shaped by the long Christian-Muslim conflict that defined Iberian history for the better part of 800 years. A family might have taken the name Castillo because they lived in the shadow of one of those fortresses. Others might have worked inside its walls. Others simply came from a town that carried Castillo as part of its own name. Then, there's the larger shadow behind the word, Castillo. The kingdom's name is so tightly bound to fortifications that it became a symbol of military and political power across the entire peninsula, which is part of why the Spanish language itself is still often called Castellano, a linguistic fingerprint of just how central Castile became to Spain's formation. So if your surname is Castillo, it probably doesn't mean an ancestor owned a fortress. Most didn't, but it likely means your family's name was forged in a world where castles weren't scenery. They were the difference between survival and disaster. Number 6. Vega. Vega is a map hiding inside a surname. In Spanish, a vega is a fertile, low-lying plain, usually flat land near a river, ideal for farming. In a pre-industrial economy, land like that wasn't just scenery, it was wealth. The difference between rocky hillside soil and an irrigated river plain could be the difference between a village that starved and a village that thrived. That's exactly why Vega became such a common place name, and, eventually, a surname. A family might have lived beside a vega, farmed one, owned rights to one, or simply come from a town built around one. The name traveled from Spain into Latin America, where it settled naturally onto new river valleys and farmland that matched its original meaning perfectly. The word didn't just survive as a family name, it kept showing up on maps too. Vega Alta, Vega Baja, and, most famously, Las Vegas, a Spanish name that literally translates to the meadows, long before it became synonymous with casinos and desert lights. Vega is proof that a word can start in mud and irrigation ditches, cross an ocean, become a surname, become a city, and end up spoken by millions of people who have no idea they're describing farmland. Number 5. Reyes. Reyes means kings, plural. And that plural is exactly why people misread it. If your surname is Reyes, it almost certainly doesn't mean your family sat on a throne. In most cases, the name has a far more ordinary, and arguably more interesting, origin. A family may have lived near a church, chapel, or road named for Los Reyes, the three kings of the Nativity story, who hold enormous significance in Hispanic Catholic tradition. In many Spanish-speaking countries, the Feast of the Three Kings on January 6th remains one of the most important religious and family celebrations of the entire year, arguably rivaling Christmas itself. So, Reyes could be tied to a religious landmark, a parish feast day, or a name assigned by a community around that celebration. In some cases, it may also have started as a nickname, for someone who carried himself with unusual pride or authority, acting like a king, without owning anything close to a crown. And like Cruz, in certain family histories the name may sit near the same post-Reconquista world of conversion and religious identity. Today, there are millions of Reyeses scattered across the Hispanic world, and almost none of them descend from actual monarchs. But the name still carries a crown-shaped shadow, whether it's earned or not. Before we get to the final 5, if one of these names belongs to your family, drop it in the comments along with the country your family comes from. What makes these surnames fascinating isn't just where they started, it's how far they've traveled since. And if you want more of these hidden history breakdowns on surnames, clans, and the histories buried inside your own last name, hit subscribe. New videos come out every week. Now, back to the countdown. Number 4. Morales. Morales is a name with more than one possible door behind it. The most widely accepted explanation ties it to the Spanish word moral, meaning mulberry tree. A family might have lived near a stand of mulberry trees, farmed land where they grew, or come from a town named for them. The same way countless Spanish surnames were born out of trees, rivers, hills, and stretches of farmland. But Morales sits in an interesting linguistic neighborhood. Words like Moro, Moreno, and Morisco belong to a much broader vocabulary tied to complexion, geography, and the medieval memory of North Africa, and the Moors in the Iberian imagination. That overlap doesn't mean every Morales family carries Moorish ancestry. It doesn't even mean most do. This is exactly where people tend to overreach. A surname is not a DNA result. It's a question, not a verdict. For one Morales family, the answer may be trees. For another, a village name. And for some family lines, deeper research may eventually surface contact with regions where Christian, Muslim, Jewish, and later Converso communities lived side by side for generations. That ambiguity is what makes Morales genuinely fascinating. It doesn't hand you a clean answer. It hands you a path worth investigating. Number 3. Flores. Flores means flowers. And, unlike some names on this list, it's often exactly what it appears to be. The word comes from the Latin flus, meaning flower. Some families took the name from a town known for its flowering fields or plants. Others may have adopted it later as what's called an ornamental surname, a name chosen specifically for its beauty or symbolism rather than any literal family history. This matters because not every Hispanic surname stretches back 1,000 years. Some are medieval, some are colonial, some were only standardized once church registries and later civil record-keeping made a fixed, written surname mandatory. In parts of Latin America, especially during the wave of civil registration reforms in the 19th century, indigenous, mestizo, and rural families who had never been assigned a formal Spanish-style surname were sometimes required to register one on the spot. In those moments, names could be chosen, assigned by an official, adapted from a nickname, or simply picked because they sounded pleasant. That doesn't make Flores less meaningful. It makes it more human. One Flores family might trace back to a medieval Spanish village. Another might trace back to a name chosen under bureaucratic pressure, generations later. Not every surname on this list is an ancient castle. Some are flowers, picked in a hurry when the state demanded a name. Number 2, Rodríguez. Rodríguez is one of the giants, one of the most common surnames in the entire Hispanic world. And because it's everywhere, people stop noticing how old it actually is. Rodríguez means, quite literally, son of Rodrigo. That easy ending is one of the most important clues in all of Spanish surnames. The same pattern shows up in González, Hernández, Martínez, Fernández, Sánchez, and Pérez. It marks a patronymic. This person is the son of that person, a naming system where a father's first name became the foundation of an entire family line for generations afterward. Rodrigo itself carries deep Germanic roots, generally tied to meanings around fame and power. Names like this entered Iberian history through the Visigoths, the Germanic kingdom that ruled Hispania before the Muslim conquest of 711, meaning Rodríguez predates even the medieval Christian kingdoms most people associate with Spanish history. So Rodríguez isn't just a common name. It's a frozen sentence. It once meant, quite specifically, this is Rodrigo's son. Time erased the original Rodrigo completely. His face, his village, even the century he lived in are lost to us. But the sentence itself survived, carried across oceans and continents by people who have no idea which Rodrigo started it all. Every modern Rodríguez is still technically pointing backward at a forgotten father. Number 1, Garcia. Garcia is everywhere. Spain, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, the United States, the Philippines, across the entire Hispanic-speaking world. Garcia might be the single most recognizable surname on Earth. And that ubiquity is exactly why it's so easy to underestimate. Because Garcia is common, people assume it must be simple. It isn't. It's old, genuinely old, and its origin is still debated among linguists. Several competing theories exist. Some scholars connect it to ancient Basque roots. Others point toward older personal names or regional forms whose meanings have been lost to time. The Basque theory is the one that keeps historians up at night, because Basque is one of the true linguistic mysteries of Europe. It isn't Latin. It isn't Germanic. It isn't Celtic. It isn't Arabic. It stands almost entirely apart from every major language family surrounding it, a linguistic island that predates the Roman arrival in Iberia. Some traditions link Garcia to Old Basque word forms, though no single explanation has ever been definitively proven. And that uncertainty is the entire point. Garcia isn't powerful because we know precisely what it means. It's powerful because it's old enough that certainty starts to dissolve. The name appears heavily in northern Iberia, especially in regions tied historically to Navarre and Basque influence, before spreading outward as medieval kingdoms expanded, written records hardened, and families eventually crossed the Atlantic by the millions. Garcia became ordinary because it survived extraordinarily well. But underneath that ordinary surface sits something genuinely ancient, a name that may reach back into a Spain that existed before modern Spanish itself, before most families had any fixed surname at all. If your name is Garcia, the surname won't hand you a simple answer. It hands you something better, a mystery that has outlived millions of signatures. 10 surnames, 10 clues. Medina carried a city inside a family name. Guerrero preserved the memory of a warrior. Cruz carried faith, pressure, and, for some families, a hidden history of survival. Castillo kept the shadow of stone walls alive centuries after the walls themselves crumbled. Vega turned fertile land into an inheritance. Reyes carried the image of kings without a single crown ever changing hands. Morales opened a question between trees, geography, and layered history. Flores reminded us that a name doesn't need to be ancient to carry weight. Rodríguez preserved the memory of a forgotten father named Rodrigo. And Garcia proved that even the most common surname on the continent can hide one of its oldest unsolved mysteries. Your surname is not proof of everything, but it is not decoration either. It's a compressed archive, a clue left behind by people who worked, prayed, migrated, converted, fought, crossed oceans, changed languages, and eventually handed their children a name to carry forward. You didn't choose it. You inherited it. And before it ever reached you, it passed through centuries of decisions made by people you will never meet. If your surname appeared on this list, tell us in the comments, and tell us what country your family comes from. If you know the village, the region, or the story your grandmother used to tell, leave that too. And if your surname didn't make the list, comment it anyway, because it may be carrying a history your family forgot generations ago. Subscribe to Surname Origins for a new surname origin video every week. Your last name isn't just a name. It's evidence.